Welcome back to the 2 in the morning. Today I'm looking at the Washington football team and giving my opinion on whether or not they should trade up in this upcoming 2021 NFL draft. But before getting to that topic, question for those of you viewing: Chase Young, your best defensive player, the captain of your defense, all-time pass rusher in NFL history, is going to go down as one at this current pace. Who would win a fight? Chase Young, the great guy on your defense, or his former teammate at Ohio State, even though they never really got a great season together, Nick Bosa? Two young defensive ends that really lead their teams. Who wins in that fight? Comment down below what you got. But in all seriousness, getting into this topic, Washington football team last year, yeah, they made the playoffs. However, they were below 500, and they have a quarterback situation, in my opinion. Currently on the depth chart, you have Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick kind of fighting over the starting job, and you have currently a first-round pick at 19th overall. And to me, this is a yes. You should consider trading up in the NFL draft because this Washington football team, yeah, they might have gone 7-9, but this team is in, I don't want to say a win now situation as in it's win now or never, but in a ready to win now situation. I think the youth is the only thing really holding them back, if anything, and of course the quarterback position. But I think this team, if you go after a rookie quarterback in the NFL draft that could develop after just 1 or 2 years, the rest of the roster is young enough to develop with him and become a Super Bowl team. Looking at this roster right now, you got a good receiving core of Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. You just signed Adam Humphries. In my opinion, this is an underrated move. He's an underrated receiver. He used to be in the Bucs, went to the Titans. He's just a quick little slot receiver, kind of like Scotty Miller for the Bucs, that just has great hands, goes underrated, and has good speed. Not a huge addition, but I do think this is something to note. So like I said, Curtis Samuel, you added Terry McLaurin, Adam Humphries, and then you got both Cam and Steven Sims, as long as you're a pretty solid tight end, Logan Thomas. So the receiving core is pretty set. Backfield pretty good as well. Antonio Gibson might be the best rookie running back in his draft class, and you got J.D. McKissick behind him as well. Your offensive line is pretty solid overall. Franchise tagging Brandon Scherf was a good move this year to help protect that or help keep up the interior line. And looking at the defense, we know that stacked with a defense led by Chase Young, as previously said, but along with him on the defensive line, you got Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne and Montez Sweat. And then in the secondary, you got Landon Collins, Kendall Fuller, and he just signed William Jackson, one of the top corners of the league from the Cincinnati Bengals. So this Washington secondary is ready to win. The Washington receiving core is ready to win. And the Washington backfield is ready to win. They just need a quarterback to lead them. And to me, I like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I love what I saw out of Taylor Heineke in the playoffs, but I don't think either of these guys are meant to be as starters. Taylor Heineke, I think it was just a good electric game that he took off in. I got to give him credit. He gave the Bucs a run when he played for them in the playoffs, but I don't think that's going to hold up for an entire season. And then same thing of Fitzpatrick. I like Fitzpatrick, and he can air it out sometimes, and he'll get you some wins, that's for sure, but he's not consistent enough, and he has too many turnovers that you just can't count on to invest your entire franchise into. So therefore, I think they should look at moving up in the NFL draft with the 19th pick overall. Some trade targets you got to look at is probably a team with the top end, within the top 10. The Jaguars are out of the equation. They're not moving off of Trevor Lawrence, and unless you give them probably your entire draft class this year and next year. It's just not happening. But a couple teams that are in weird spots are the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins, the Atlanta Falcons, Philadelphia Eagles, Carolina Panthers, and Denver Broncos. All those teams, I think, are at least willing to consider a trade. They at least have their ear open. I mean, even the Bengals out there, they're not in a quarterback situation. But I'm sure if you offer them the right price, they'll move up or move back. Same thing with the Chargers at 13. Same thing with the Niners at 12. But to me, the best ones are in those weird quarterback situations, like the Jets, Dolphins, Panthers, Falcons, so on and so forth. But this all depends on who they're targeting. Are they targeting Zach Wilson, who's probably the second best prospect at the quarterback position, and you know what you're getting? Are they looking at an athletic quarterback in Justin Fields? Are they looking at Mac Jones? If it's Mac Jones, you can probably keep 19th overall, and there's a decent chance he falls to you. Or you look into, roll the dice, go for a wild card pick and try and get Trey Lance, who we don't know a lot about, but we know we have a lot of upside with him, but there could be downside as well. We don't know what he is. That all depends on the Washington football team. And for trades to be in talks, that's already aggressive enough for Ron Rivera. He's not a quarterback, or he's not a coach that makes huge, aggressive, blockbuster offseason moves by any means. So being in the trade talks is enough for him, but so for him to then roll the dice on Trey Lance. I don't see that happening, but who knows? To me, they got to be in the market for Zach Wilson. But for him, you'd probably have to guarantee you'll get the pick of Zach Wilson is go up to number 2 overall, because there's a decent chance that the Jets are looking at him and they're looking to move off Sam Darnold. So a package you'd have to throw together to try and offer the Jets is definitely your first this year. You have 2 third rounders this year, so I'm thinking a first this year, a third this year, and a first next year, and probably a second next year as well. So that's 2 firsts, a second, and a third, and that might not even be enough, because we're talking about number 2 overall in the NFL draft. And really, Zach Wilson, if it weren't for Trevor Lawrence, who's a generational talent, would more likely than not be a first overall pick in 9 out of 10 drafts if it weren't for this generational talent in Trevor Lawrence. I mean, this is like an Andrew Luck or John Elway coming out. So Zach Wilson, he might be worth more than 2 firsts, a second, and a third. I don't know, but to me that sounds about right. The Jets will still have 2 first rounders next year. They would have 3 this year, and they'd have 3 next year. The Jets would have their own next year. They'd have Washington's next year, and they would have Seattle's next year because of the Jamal Adams trade for the Seahawks. So that's 3 first rounders next year, 2 seconds next year, and 2, I think they already have 2 thirds this year. So they're getting a good amount of draft capital, but they do have to consider, if we trade for this and Washington is now good with Zach Wilson, there's a good chance they're probably anywhere from the picks 25 to 32 in the first round if they were a good playoff team the year before, and our first round pick is not worth, or our second overall pick is not worth a trade, or a draft pick that late in the first round. So therefore I'm saying you might need more. You might have to give up your first this year, 2 thirds this year, a first and second next year, maybe another 6 or 7 just to add a cherry on top. I know that's not going to change the deal drastically and really convince the Jets, you'll offer a 7th, now we'll take it. But you know what I mean? Just throw in an extra piece, maybe throw in a player. I mean, you got Antonio Gibson, throw in J.D. McKissick. He's not the best running back, but you could go without him, and the Jets need a running back. Throw in a receiver, Cam and Steven Sims. You don't really need them. Those aren't really great guys to really, same thing as throwing in a 7th round pick. It's not going to persuade the Jets entirely, but just throw in an extra guy or so to make it interesting. I think this Jets team would be willing to come off Zach Wilson to avoid the awkward situation of, do we go with Wilson or do we go with Darnold? And if the Washington went with Zach Wilson, he doesn't even have to start right away. We don't have to throw him in there like a Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and say, go win us games, go take us to the playoffs. Let Ryan Fitzpatrick start a few games. Let Taylor Heineke start a few games. Or, do a Tua thing where you come in like week 7 and Zach Wilson starts halfway through the season. Lot of options for them to go there. Or if they know the Jets won't be, if you know the Jets won't be drafting Zach Wilson and they're sticking with Sam Darnold, then talk to the Dolphins. The further back that Zach Wilson's going to drop, the less you have to offer to trade up. And there's a lot of possibilities out there. And say you're not going for Zach Wilson, trade back to, Denver Broncos at number 9 or a Panthers at number 8, and then you don't have to give up as much. I mean, if you look at the Panthers, Trey Lance has a good chance of falling down to 8, and you want to roll the dice and someone tells Ron Rivera to bite your tongue and just take the gamble, see what happens, you could probably offer a similar package as that before, but you don't have to throw in the extra player or the extra third rounder, maybe 2 firsts, 1 this year, 1 next year, and then a third, and you're done, because you're not number 2 overall, number 9 overall, or number 8 overall is still pretty high, but number 2 overall is extremely valuable compared to 6 picks later. So a lot of options. To me, they got to take the gamble, they got to roll the dice. I'd like to see them invest in Zach Wilson just because he's a little safer play. I think Washington has a good thing going here. I don't want them to sacrifice their draft capital for the next 1 to 2 years for a Trey Lance guy that could turn out to be a bust. I mean, of course, anyone could be a bust, but I just think the safer play is a better move here. Trey Lance, he's got to develop a little bit. He's got to get some growing pains in just because he didn't have much, college experience. He did great for what he did play, but there wasn't a lot of games under his belt. Zach Wilson, you could say the same thing as him. He played a decent amount of game, but didn't have a lot of competition. However, going to an NFC East, the competition isn't stacked by any means in that division. Getting to play Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles twice a year, I don't think that division will be as bad as they were last year, but still probably the worst division in the NFL. So to me, I'm absolutely entertaining the idea of trading up in this NFL draft. I think Zach Wilson's a safe play. I like the Trey Lance move better than no move. And of course, there's Justin Fields and Mac Jones. But to me, Mac Jones, I'd rather just stick with Fitzpatrick or Taylor Heineke and then draft an offensive tackle at 19, such as Chris and Darisaw, to protect them rather than take Mac Jones. I don't really believe in him with Washington, but who knows? I could be wrong. Or Justin Fields. He's extremely athletic. Supposedly he ran a 4.4 40-yard dash. That's insanely fast for a quarterback. That is a receiver type of number. But there's a lot of options. If you're trading up for Justin Fields, you might be able to, same thing as a Trey Lance thing, trade at 8 or 9. You don't have to give up the entire farm like you would for number 2 overall. But either way, I want to see this Washington football team make a move at quarterback and go up in the NFL draft. I like Fitzpatrick, and I think it's a good backup plan, but I don't believe that the Washington football team is done here. Of course, there's other trade ideas. There's Sam Darnold maybe on the market. Is Jimmy Garoppolo maybe on the market? Is Deshaun Watson on the market? That's talking about trading a lot, but either way, I don't believe this team is done, and therefore I think they should move up in the NFL draft and go for a Zach Wilson or Trey Lance. Those are my top 2 picks, and really Trey Lance might be more ideal in my opinion, but just because I know Ron Rivera, I'm going to pick Zach Wilson over. I don't want to say I know Ron Rivera, but knowing how Ron Rivera has been in the past, I'm going to go with Zach Wilson over Trey Lance just because of him probably wanting to play safe, not be super aggressive, and take a huge risk. He knows what he's got on this team, and he just needs one tier better at the quarterback position. He doesn't need to go all out and pray for a 10 out of 10 quarterback and Trey Lance becoming it. He's fine with the 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 quarterback in a skill set in Zach Wilson. So therefore, that is a better pick for me. But we will have to see. Comment below what you guys think. Do you think they will trade up in the NFL draft, or do you think they will? 2 different questions. Do you think they should, and do you think they will? Of course, comment down below. For the question of the day, who do you think wins that fight? Chase Young and Nick Bosa, 2 former teammates, 2 Ohio State defenders, 2 great defenders in the NFL right now, 2 6'4" and 6'5" beasts. But I got to go with Chase Young. His nickname is the Predator, and that is for a reason. I'm going to go with Chase Young. Thanks for watching, guys. 2-minute warning.